All right. So would like to welcome you guys to our May edition of the Maker Roundtable. And I guess this would be then the formal announcement that, oh, and Angela got in. That this will be our last one for the summer. So we're going to have this and then take a break and then start back up in September. That is our new plan. So glad to see you all here today. You know, if people want to do one in the middle of the summer, we probably could, but right at this point, we're planning on just taking a summer break. So so Shannon is asking if we have a schedule. We usually do these, you know, monthly on what's today, the third of week of the month. That's just how they've been going, and Naomi schedules those, and yep, and keeps those moving right along for us. And then either Mike Murata or I facilitate. That's how they've been going. If somebody, say from Texas Technology Access Program, wanted to take this over in the summer, I'm sure we could make that happen. And if you guys want to unmute, this is like super informal, and you can just talk. We don't have to use chat. Because we don't have anything planned out. Shannon, have you been to a roundtable before?
I was in the beginning. Remember, I was the one who had the fishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You just didn't have your logo up there, so
I was actually in a different organization then, and then I transitioned over here. So that's why I've been kind of absent, because I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
You know, I had to get my feet wet in my new organization.
Great. And Angela, have you joined us in the past? I'm sorry.
No, I think I've been to 2.
Okay.
Maybe last month and another time.
Okay. And it looks like Jennifer has also joined us. All right. Hello. And Jennifer, have you joined us before? I'm sorry, Angela, where are you from real quick?
I'm out from outside of Chicagoland area.
Okay. And Jennifer, you've been here?
Yep,
right?
I think I've made one meeting this year.
Okay. And where are you from?
I'm in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay, great. All right. I love just finding out where everybody is. And Ken, you're in Colorado, correct?
Yeah, I'm between Denver and Boulder. And I'm dying to know, Angela, Chicagoland, is that like Candyland? Is that different from Chicago?
Just in the suburbs. We're west of the city, maybe
Okay.
about 45 minutes.
Okay.
So everything that's in the commuter area is referred to as Chicagoland.
Okay. I thought Graceland, Candyland,
Right,
Chicagoland,
right.
this could be anything.
So
Yeah,
Ken would be in
right.
Denver land and I would be in Houston land.
There we go. And Jennifer, she's just in the North Woods.
That is what it's called.
Yeah. All right. And Rich is also joining us. Rich, if you have a camera and want to turn it on, there we go. Hi. And Rich, remind us where you are as well.
Duquesne University in Pittsburgh.
All right. Jennifer is telling us she's a cheesehead. Which I have to say, Green Bay does have the best football paraphernalia, you know, like a cheesehead. It's great. All right, and I don't know, Bill, if you told people that you're from Columbia. Bill and I are both Missourians.
Yep, University of Missouri, right in the middle of the state.
Yeah, and I'm in Kansas City. All right, well, you know, probably enough about where we all live. But thank you all for joining us. And the way we usually run these is just if anybody has anything they want to share, any ideas or creations, then we kind of go through, and if somebody has a current problem, and then if we want to share any resources. So I will just start right off to see if anybody has anything cool they want to share or ideas they're working on right now. We would love to hear it.
Well, I have one. It's a spin-off from the key guard work. But in order to support certain cases, had to come up with a design for something to replace the screen protector in some cases in order to get a key guard in there. And turns out it's not that hard to make a screen protector. You simply add clear plastic to the back of this and attach it with spray-on adhesive. So if you're ever in an environment where the screen protector broke, or you want to add a screen protector to some case, it's not incredibly difficult. And the program supports building these as well now.
And is that just made out of PLA?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's, I don't, so it won't break very easily, right?
It won't break very easily. But the important thing is that anything that's attached to the front end of a tablet if it's going to break, the tablet's going to break. I mean, when you take it out, that's a different story, but these don't get taken out.
Okay.
Right? They go in and they're difficult to get in the first place. And so it's not the kind of thing you're taking out, putting in, taking out, putting in.
Perfect. Cool. Well, the only thing that that I have today, and it's not as cool as Ken's, but I had a guy come in. I don't think I've shared this in the past. I had a guy come in who wanted an oven push-pull stick, which I will say is a limitation for the 3D printer going into a hot oven. And so I had an old cane, that I just made into a push-pull stick, but I wanted to add grip to it. And so I went down to the bike shop and asked him if he had any inner tubes laying around. And he gave me an inner tube, which I put on here just because Dyson is expensive. And it just added grip. It took me a minute to figure out how to get a really small inner tube onto basically the same diameter. But once I figured out I could roll it up and move it around instead of trying to work it down, it worked much better. So I got a couple of layers on there, and it adds a lot of grip. So that's all I've got to share. But I'm all about I like the 3D printers, but I'm all about recycling.
So Scout, I'm curious. I've seen push-pull sticks made specifically for that purpose, and they often have a very broad front end on them with a V, so it's easy kind of to work your way onto the grill, especially for the push.
Yeah.
Do you find that small diameter on the cane is kind of tough to match or get fitted?
So I haven't hooked back up with the guy I want to give it to. Who's going to test that for me. Yeah, because I think I might have to do some more drilling. He's got, I think for him, his vision is good. I think that he would be able to use something with this diameter. It's, for him, it's more about if he can hold this part, that will
There's
be
no tremor issue going on there.
Yeah, I mean, with everybody's different complexities, this will work for somebody, but not for everybody. so I also made one, a standard out of a yardstick, half a yardstick.
Okay.
And if that one works better for him, I'll give him that one. And I also put the inner tube on that. But I think I'll have to add something else to make that grip different. I don't like the grip on the standard ruler type. But yeah, that is a limitation, having a smaller area.
I had a mounting question issue, and actually Ken did give me a suggestion, but I have a young woman, she's in high school, and we're working on switch access, and she's not had a lot of exposure. So one of her behavioral things is to always want to grab it. And then she wants to get into that tug of war, you're going to go after her and get it and peel her fingers. And we're working, and she has the whole idea of cause and effect, and we're working on 2 switches, but I can't figure out how to secure those switches so she's not going to grab them, because part of her grasp is to go and grab 2, or part of her access, short of just obviously drilling them onto something and then getting 2 clamps to clamp on the table. But then my concern is she'll want to grab the clamps if they're within reach. So I've looked.
And did Ken show you his mounting?
Yes, and my concern is she'll try to get her fingers underneath and pull that special mount up, pull it off that.
It's possible. I mean, it's just a suction cup, so it's possible
Yeah.
you could exceed the suction of the suction cup. Do you have a concern about her getting her fingers underneath the pressure layer of the switch itself? So sometimes you may be using a switch where it seems like it's one unit and you can't get your fingers between the parts.
Mhm.
But does she ever try to get her fingers inside the top part of the switch? To pull that off?
You know what? I think one time she actually, because she was working it, popped off the top of the
Okay.
switch, but not typically.
Okay.
I'm using a switch by Inclusive TLC, so it's a USB and it's more dome-like, so it
Okay.
doesn't have that much space underneath. But
I would probably target the behavior more than the suction, and I would sit there, I'd get about as many broken switches as I could find, and every time she ran off with one, I would sit there and just plop another one down there. Maybe have a hidden switch where you're actually triggering it.
mhm, mhm.
And then it eventually, once she realizes that you're broken and that behavior doesn't work with you, she may engage with the activity. I would get a highly engaging activity and a million switches and wear her down until she realizes the value of the actual switch activity. Because otherwise you're just going to keep challenging her to take it. So
Beat the
Just-
game.
it's a game. So, and she's learned that because it's been highly effective for her. So I would, and then as soon as it's effective for you, I would do the same thing with everybody else. And I would target that behavior because once you get that behavior under control and she sees the value of the switches, you may see some powerful changes in it.
So you're saying have a broken switch there for her to grasp and release, grasp?
I would get as many, I would do an all call for all the broken switches or even produce some fake ones. And I don't even make the environment safe for her and have a hidden switch where when she does hit it, you can trigger it. So she sees some value in it. But then if she pulls it and runs, you just sit another switch out there and she's going to be, but wait a minute, you're supposed to come and get this one. And then she runs with that one and then you just stick another one there. And anytime she gets close to it, like activating it, you have like a hidden switch where you're going to actually activate it.
I love that idea.
That's very clever.
That's much better than my ideas. My ideas were to either use a flat switch that is not mechanical, right? So something, and then you just like secure it to the table. So, you can glue it, you can Velcro it, whatever, but there's really nothing to grip because it's just
Right,
flat.
yeah.
Or the proximity switch under something.
But she'll still have that, like, that's just like one more challenge for her to
Oh,
find
sure.
another way to get it.
Yeah.
No, that's why I like your idea much more.
So I would just do an all call for broken switches and I would sit there and just play it out.
You don't
I
even
have-
need to use switches. You could just like use anything that's a dome, anything that's a square, like just keep putting things there.
I probably have about 100 of those AbleNet switch caps. You
Yep,
know, all those, they come with 4 colors every time you purchase something, so.
yep. You just get like a Dyson thing so they don't slip and slide and just like put it
Take
on
them and
there.
get a piece of like old plastic or something and make it look like a real switch.
I have a lot of
And-
foam, I'll just to secure it on.
Yeah,
and-
make
make it
sure it
pretty.
has some kind of motion so that it looks real.
Mhm.
And then just wear it down and then, but make sure that there's something highly engaging so that when she actually
Yeah.
comes clear and touches it, something happens on it for her so that she sees the value in that interaction.
Right, and the actual activity becomes more desirable than
Yeah.
the negative behavior.
Then the behavioral activity, yeah.
It's great.
Because we want to protect our devices and I find that kids can really use those devices as a tool to control the whole environment. So that
Mhm.
that way, well, that one's gone. All right, here's another one. Boom.
Thank you. That's what she sees it more as she wants even though she likes some of the cause and effect activities, they're musical, it's really more the interaction between herself and adult. I get the sense that in the past, she was just put in a classroom and that's it. No
But in a
expectations.
classroom, and that's how she had to gain people's attention. So
Mhm,
she's
exactly.
mastered it. So,
Yep.
and she's in high school. Oh my gosh, look at how many years she's had to master that behavior.
Absolutely.
So get in it for the long haul and just make sure that, well, that's why 20, whatever.
Yeah.
I did that with a little boy who was about 5th grade and it took me about an hour of just, here's the next board, here's the next board. And finally we were able to develop a relationship and then you can train the people around you once you've got
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
I
Because
wonder if there's sorry, go ahead.
once it works for you, he's still going to be, or whoever it is still going to be trying it with new people because you're broken, but the next person might not be.
Right.
I wonder if there's a way to give her that interactive engagement that she seems to be wanting, like she wants to engage with a
Right.
person, not with a thing. And this is her social gambit. And
Give her
so,
something to say, hey, come here, and then,
right, give her another opportunity, like, pull the teens around her, like, what are common catchphrases that you say, and like program a sequence or switch that she can just say catchphrases. Just something, but I agree that in this instance, her social gambits are inappropriate and ineffective.
Yeah.
And so that's a great strategy for, breaking that pattern. But I also think that it would be valuable to give her some engagement, social engagement, which she seems to be wanting.
Well, that's why you really play up when she's doing it right. That's why you want to make sure you have a working switch so that you make that an engaging activity so that you're reshaping into that more powerful, engaging tool that'll teach her literacy and everything else.
Yeah, and that if you really engage when she does it,
oh, we start dancing and everything.
And
You know,
then
like,
the switch, you might try like making a PowerPoint of like her family members, places she goes and do some music with it. I'll get like some of the high school teenagers to create those PowerPoints for me because I'm not as creative. But see if you can get some volunteers who need volunteer hours to create a couple PowerPoints and find out some pictures and things and make it kind of like engaging. So when she does hit it, mom comes on and says, hey, you're doing a great job or something like that, things that motivate her.
Yeah, every time she hits the switch, it's a different dance.
Yeah.
mhm.
And it could even be different people in her environment doing the dance. It may take, something kind of fun that she likes. It's like, wait, that's my mom doing that dance or whatever. So
Right.
PowerPoints, I've had a lot of success with PowerPoints because you can do some creative things with them. And I don't do it. I get some of the local high school kids to be creative, like your honor students that are like just really, and give them some volunteer hours and they'll do it.
Great, thank you.
Girl
Yeah.
Scouts and Boy Scout projects also are good for PowerPoint books and activities and things. Get them to do that for you.
Nice.
And they'll come up with something way more than I would ever do.
Yeah, I was just telling people, use interns. When you need videos, use interns. All right, who else has something they want to talk about? All right, I do have a question I want to throw out. I don't know if this is the spot, but I'm gonna throw it out anyway. So I had somebody come to me and say they have an AAC user who is 90% of the time flat on his back. And what kind of mount should they use? And the only thing I had was a rolling floor mount. And I was just wondering if anybody else has any other good options. And even when he's not flat on his back, he's just barely inclined.
In the same location or in different locations?
Different locations.
Hmm. That isn't, I do think because he's in different locations, that a floor mount is more versatile.
What
Yeah.
device is he using?
I don't know. I actually didn't meet with the therapist. I wasn't here. I was just on the phone with her. And then actually when they came in, they were discussing other things. And then I don't even think they ended up looking at the floor mount. So I'm thinking she's going to call back. And so as I recall, she said communication. I don't even remember if it was eye gaze.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question is what is their control modality, their interaction modality?
Yeah,
So there's
I-
visual
I-
access, but then there's also control access.
Yeah, I probably don't have enough information to bring, but was it Mary asking about the Osmo mounting? I don't know what that is. Talking about-
Oh, that you put them on iPads and they're like cameras. You can, it's like a stick that you can put like the phone on the stick. It's always like you could put like a gooseneck type of thing or something like that.
Okay, well, I can look into that.
Yeah, it's DJI Osmos.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Huh, yep, DJI Osmo. Z
Okay.
Access. Huh. That's interesting.
I'm gonna take a,
If it wasn't eye gaze, you could possibly connect whatever the device is to like projector, and you could possibly like project it on a ceiling somewhere. I mean, that would be another sort of option.
yeah,
But then you're gonna have to know what the vision acuity is and is there any like kind of
There's so much
cortical vision?
unknown that
or-
it's hard to say.
Yeah,
It is a communication device, especially something like an eye gaze device. I get concerned about just the weight of the device falling on top of the user because it does have to be positioned, a certain distance. And so I, from a liability standpoint, would go with, a mount that is made for that communication.
well, and I didn't even think about it, but Mountain Mover might have something like that. Does anybody have any experience? I mean, they just have those, I don't know, they seem very well built.
I think all these manufacturers have one that they recommend, like Tobii Dynavox has a readapt mount, but it's basically rebranded as their mount. So,
Right,
like I would go with probably whatever. And for AAC systems, those are usually can be funded through insurance, that mounting system, because they are expensive.
right.
A floor mount is $1,500 or something like that. So, but again, you've got like the brackets that fit together and get mounted on the device. So
And I
Yeah.
think the floor mount has the most flexibility to make a quick adjustment, just rolling it, turning it, those little tweaks that,
One of the
but
we
sometimes they interfere because of the legs, interfere with the frame of the bed, especially if it's a specialized bed.
And they also make them though, without like the legs that stick out. So there are different versions of the rolling floor mount as well.
Yeah, and I guess I just have the Toby one with, the legs that are sticking out. So I could look into other options with that as well. And Mary, you were holding up one of Teresa's, what are they, the Eileen's. Yeah, but for him, like the angle like that is not gonna work because he's so flat on his back. And they said that his angles are just so, low. I don't see how that one could help. He really, needs it above his head. Yeah, even though it can go straight up, it's he
You
needs
need
something.
something that's like this.
Yeah, positioned almost above him. Yep, almost directly above him.
Yeah, and then the key for that is, like I said, like someone else said, make sure it doesn't fall, because depending,
Right.
even a light device, like even if it's just an iPad up here, like I don't want to fall in on their head.
No, right. You don't want it to fall, and he's not always in his room in bed. He is like in the living room, laying down as well. And so having something that can go room to room, I thought the only way it could be a maker thing is if you were doing almost like what do you say, like a lap tray or an overbed table that's not a rolling overbed table, but those trays that go over you when you're sitting, do something like that. But I would be worried that whatever you make, there might be something that could fall. Or it wouldn't sit over if he was on a couch, it wouldn't sit over it properly. And, I just couldn't come up with something that felt safe.
Yeah, so they're like overhead iPad holders, but they all mount onto something like the headboard. So, if you don't have a headboard, I just did a quick Google search for bed overhead iPad holder, just to give it a sense of.
Right. Well, and I would think there would be a lot for a phone, but they make them that are strong enough. They make them that are strong enough for an iPad, is what you're saying you found, Jen?
Yeah, so I just did an image search for bed overhead iPad holder. And I do see one that is a floor mounted one. But I don't know how sturdy it is, but it definitely shows pictures of people with it overhead.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, maybe some options out there.
Yeah, as long as he's not the kind of person who wants to pull on the iPad, because then the base is not going to be stable enough. That's when the feet that reach underneath like a forklift are necessary.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, and I have found that modular hose doesn't support. I wouldn't use that overhead because that just falls.
Yeah, it does. I don't find modular, I personally, maybe y'all have other.
For an
experience.
iPad, but not for anything heavier. And then you put wire inside of it to help stabilize it. So,
Yeah,
but if it's short and you can mount it, and he's not, like Ken said, reaching up and grabbing it and pulling it down. We've done some things with the lock line that we've been successful with, but you have to reinforce it with, we've used hangers and wet metal hangers inside, but
Right.
other wires.
yeah, that gauge of wire that's hard to bend would be make it useful.
Yeah, that's a great idea because that's why I don't ever recommend Lockline. I think it's fun for figuring out the right position. You know, that's its strength is its flexibility, but that's precisely also its weakness.
Right.
It doesn't.
You
stay
one of
there.
those metal hangers and you twist it long, double it up and kind of work it in there and it gives it a lot more stability.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a great idea. So I have a question for everybody. A middle school student who is nonverbal and has, you know, a lot of random movements and also has intellectual disabilities. And parents want him to engage with an iPad for both communication and recreation. And he is averse to anything on his tray. Anything on his tray, he's just going to swipe off. And so part of me, I was thinking like a similar idea, like, oh, is this the you know, the swipesy game, and breaking him of that behavior. But other people on the team have been talking about either embedded in the tray or under the tray kind of things with a cutaway for the iPad screen. Has anyone have experience with one of those? Any thoughts on one of those?
I have a question. So does he dislike anything in front of him? I mean, like if there was something not on his tray, like mounted, say, I mean, like if you had those modular hose clamps. Does he
Or
want
a floor stand, and it was on a floor stand as opposed to.
Yeah, I'm just curious if you've tried that. Like if he likes his tray clean, what if it's not on his tray?
Right.
And be able to engage with it.
That's a great alternate perspective. I had not considered that. That I can ask about that.
So
I
if
do some
someone-
consulting in a school, and some of the students that works great. You know, they don't want anything on their desk, but as long as it's over their desk or near their desk, they're okay. And others it doesn't. But I mean, it's certainly worth a try.
Yeah.
So is he aversive to interacting with the iPad for communication or rec leisure, or like you said, just?
He's not very successful. So he, you know, there's not a lot of good graded pointing action. He uses a pull-off pod book. So we have digital pod, but we also, I say digital pod, but it's one that his AAC specialist created in Go Talk Now. It's not a pod app.
Okay.
But he also has a pull-off book, and he's very successful with the pull-off book. But yeah, he's not as successful with the iPad. We have started doing a little bit of experimenting with, there's a user-made stylus called a NAD pen. I don't know if any of you have seen a NADPEN NAD pen. And I got one. It's kind of prototypey. It's just a user who made one. But I was really fascinated. It's got this oval curved surface, and really it's pretty accurate from any angle on the surface, which is kind of cool. And it has some different handles that you can swap out different handles on it. And so we're thinking about that, but it's kind of like those are two aspects of the puzzle, and I'm trying to deal with the not wanting things on the tray aspect.
Mhm.
Does he have a grid on his iPad?
For his talker, he doesn't have the grid app, but he does have
No,
it.
an actual, like through Ken, you can use 3D printing to create a
Oh,
grid.
so a key guard.
I keep going.
Yeah,
No.
a key guard, I'm
He
sorry.
does not have a key guard on his iPad yet. And so that may be a factor for his access, but that still doesn't get he doesn't want it on his tray.
No,
piece.
so it has to be mounted up in front of him.
Yeah, so
We do use the modular hose with the plastic tray in front of our students, and we've had a lot of success. I mean, as in terms of they're relatively inexpensive, and
Mhm.
you can position, and the kids, the kids use them. They're not aversive to them or wanna.
Sure.
Jen, does he have the pod book on his tray? So he allows other things on his tray? That-
No, the pod book is always held by his communication partner.
That was the other thing I was wondering, if somebody holds it, would he use the iPad?
Pulls off a symbol.
Mm,
So I'm wondering too,
that's an interesting one.
if it's
Yeah.
an angle, like is his vision better when it's upright and you can see it versus down? Those are all.
Right.
You
Those
know.
are really good questions.
Mhm.
Thank you for those. Yeah, I will check with the team about that.
Yeah.
So I have a question for everyone. And this was initiated by Angela back when I interviewed her for a little while about the bliss tactile symbols that she's helping with the design of. I asked her, what are some of the barriers to acceptance by maybe the therapist teacher of using these kinds of things? And one, Angela, you can help me with this. She said part of it is just presentation. What's the plan for presenting these to these students? How do you get them around from class to class or whatever? And I didn't have any ideas. I think, Angela, you may have brought up something about, well, if there was a little pouch they could be kept in. Say more about what your concerns were there. Maybe these guys can come up with lots of ideas for how to do this.
I think we were talking about just the best way to display them and have them accessible for everybody, especially the staff. Or in our particular case, it would be the staff doing the setup and display and guiding the student who has complex communication needs, physical limitations, cortical visual impairment. So just finding a way to either use them as a means to orient her to our environments. Oh, we're going to go now. We're going to go to the bathroom. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to go to the classroom. And then also allow her access to request more of something, more music, more food, more, toy, that type of thing.
So how to get this into the environment of the student?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
So
we
what I
use
would do,
Velcro sensitive material typically.
what I would do is set up a communication board like poster size and actually Velcro them so they match what the other kids' communication systems are, kind of a similar layout where you've got your nouns, your pronouns, and then some of your high frequency verbs, so that you've got access so that they can be easily found. I see you've got the hole in it, and I'll have the kids put them on a loop. And so they'll carry a loop of about 5, because typically they've got not a lot of language, but I want a lot of reinforcement. I'll do a lot of like transitions for go, so that every time they're walking through the door, I'm going to put the go in their hand so that they get that awareness of the go. But it, you're in that school setting, it's got to be quick, fast, easy, because you don't want to miss those moments. So it's got to be organized in a way. I almost think I'd like to see a set almost like a puzzle where you're fitting them in somehow. I don't know, but it needs to be a layout where you can get to it quick. And it needs to be consistent with some of the other kids' communication. And I don't mind that in a classroom they have to have the same, but it needs to be a similar layout so that the teachers can practice and be familiar with it.
Right. So for us, we have, a core initiative. So we could create a smaller display board because we're focusing on a lot of the same core language that she needs to focus
Core words
on.
are core words. It's just a different symbol.
Absolutely. That's what we had said in our discussion. It's just a different representation.
And the same activities that you would use to teach your regular core words, you'd be doing the same thing. But what I would do is I would take that symbol but it needs to be something where your paraprofessionals and your teachers can access it quickly. And you would do, I'm not a big proponent of like a core word of the week, because I think we start bombarding them with things that are not in the environment, but I am looking at looking at a child and really reinforcing some of the words that would give them control of their environment.
Right.
So that's why I typically start with your goes and stops,
Yeah.
because that's something that the parents can grab, put in the hand and move out with.
So how are they grabbing it? Is it in a box? Is it, you know?
Well, it depends on once again, that's where you have to, it's student specific. And so I've had some students that are deafblind, mild deafblind, they have got some vision, but it's CVI, and we'll actually put them in their hand, or we'll get like a ring of about 5 and they're on it. So there's a hole in it and you make it like a necklace. So if you look at the ones that they have at the North Carolina, Karen Erickson's, those 20, they actually put a hole in it because they found that when you put the loop on top, it would break off and then it was a choking hazard. So they actually drilled the holes through it. And I found some lanyards that pop open like a dog collar so that they won't choke on it, because you don't want a choking hazard. And I put them on there, and they can you can kind of like walk their hands through finding the one that represents the go. And I'll take a little time to kind of put them on the child's hands.
What if you were to use something like either like a tackle box or something that's got a grid of little places that you arrange in core board order, but that they're always in those little pockets, and so you can pull them out. And so they can feel across the top and feel in and feel each one and pull each one out and put each one back.
That you want to market that motor planning, but you also have to remember that you have paraprofessionals that we're training to do this, and it's got to be, the easier we can make it for the paraprofessionals, the more it's going to be used with the student, because the paraprofessionals are typically the ones minute by minute with these students. And so I've got to make it easy enough for my paraprofessional to be able to access it quickly and really do it. And that's why I try to break it up, but it's got to be quick and available. And so we like the strings. And the one thing I don't like is you're not going back to the same location. So it's going to depend on the student. I've seen some kids in wheelchairs where we can hang the string on the wheelchair and they're only working with 2 or 3 symbols, but how do we grow from there? And so I would like to see like some kind of a layout that kind of mimics somebody else. But once again,
So are we putting Velcro on these?
you could, I would.
Okay, the other thing I was thinking of is, those things you hang on closet doors to put shoes in. Something similar, but small, a little booklet that has pages like that with just little pockets, little felt pockets that you could slide these into to get them from classroom to classroom, or pull out a set or a page.
We use the Velcro sensitive books and do exactly. So for our particular student, there's one symbol on a page we use it as both her schedule and, orienting to her to her environment, as well as communication time. So I think AugCom Resources has it.
Yeah, it's augmentative communication, augmentative resources. I think they've got those, they called them bifolds with a handle. Those are really nice. It's
you can put everything in display and have a little handle.
You got a link to that, you put in the chat.
I'll put it in. I've got a lot of those, and they've got different sizes, but there's one that is real easy for teachers to carry.
Okay, because the other thing is, these are free DIY things. I want to also have ways for people to either make them themselves, or better yet, purchase them inexpensively from someplace. And so Etsy, if I could get some Etsy person who's interested in making them and taking on that business, then I would have no trouble saying on my own website, hey, go ahead and contact this Etsy store for these kinds of things. Mary?
I have my daughter-in-law does a sensory kit I think it's called Charlie and Curtis for and she's on Etsy. So I can talk with her. We also have a 3D printer, but also you might want to do it with that one place that in Chicago, in Illinois, that has that you can make them. It's got a maker space where people make things. Do you know
Can
what
I
I'm talking about? It was on here. It was on the round table. There's a website that you can go to and
Right.
you can designate makers to make those things.
18 makers?
But
Or
No,
Maker-
not 18 makers. It's in
Maker-
Chicago.
Okay.
What is?
I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, so there are some places where people can contact the place and say, I'd like you to make this for me, or find someone to
Right.
make this for me.
Right.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Um,
but I do have, my niece does have an Etsy site.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and drop the webpage for these in the chat. And people,
some they're fun.
and people can contact me with ideas or suggestions about who to get involved. I want to present these at Closing the Gap if they accept the proposal. And I would love to have already lined up these kinds of stores people could go to if you wanted to get 50 of them. You don't want to go to your local maker shop and say, would you make me 50?
So,
Right. Okay.
so Ken, I've worked with Brian Heeman here with ImageNet has been really helpful with us down here in the Houston area. He's worked with a lot of our schools, and we're trying to get our schools once again to reach out to our engineering departments. I'm working with Austin Independent School District right now. They're using your Key Guard program, and they're trying to make some kind of a system where their student engineers using the 3D printers are going to be making it for all of the schools. They're going to set up some kind of a system. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah,
But-
if that gets rolling, tell that guy to talk to me, because I just want to know that they're out there.
Yeah, the Key Guards, you're like, we all watched your, I had to watch it about 4 times because this is a speech path going CAD. And so it's a new world for me. I'm like, huh? But we've done some incredible things. Like, I'm pretty amazed at what I can do with your little Key Guard program. I still need some work on it, but it's pretty amazing if we can get that in the hands of, and that's what Austin Independent School District is going to do, is they're trying to get they're going to be meeting with their group, and they're trying to set up a system where the speech paths will then order the Key Guards or whoever needs them through this group, and then they'll do the design for the different, and so their special ed department is going to try to purchase the 3D printer, although they've got a bunch of them. And then it'll be kind of like teaching them that business model, yet they're giving back to the school. So
Cool.
that's kind of what we're going for with Austin Independent School District. They've just got a great team to work with.
So Shannon, if you wouldn't mind putting your email address in the chat, I'd like to make contact with you again. And Mary, yes, the Key Guard designer, all you do is flip a switch and it changes it to a laser cut design.
Oh, okay.
And you can
Okay.
send that off instead.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, I like that bifold communication folder. Thanks, Shannon, for putting that in the chat.
So that one, I can tell you, when I worked at the previous place, we worked with about 49 school districts in Houston. And when we would give that out, because we always had a budget of things we could provide to the school district to increase, that was always one of our top sellers. And it's that particular one is worth its weight in gold because it folds and it's easy to carry. And
Right.
and people don't realize, and I will make like stories that go with the low-tech communication board, and I can put everything in there and you can just grab and go. And it's that grab and go that we've got to keep in mind, because there's so much, the more the disability, the more equipment that goes with the student, the harder it is to manipulate all the pieces. So it's got to be easy to access. And so typically when you're dealing with students who have deaf, blind, or motor difficulties, they just got a lot of equipment, and it's just one more thing to be managed. So it may not seem much for us, but when you're working with these paraprofessionals who are trying to negotiate all of this, you got to make it as doable as possible.
Do you think that that book would accommodate the width of the 3D tactile?
That one would, and what you could do with that is you could put an extra fold, like I would just find a way to bend it, and it's really lightweight and it's real easy to carry. And it's the receiving, I always say, you always put it's hard to travel, the hard Velcro on the piece, and that's your soft board. It's hard to travel, put the hard Velcro on the pieces, and it'll stick right in there and you can fold it right up.
Right, because then you could organize them in that core board order.
And I've used those, and I'll take those silver Sharpie pins, and you can actually draw
Outline.
and write the words on it so that it makes it easy for the paraprofessionals or whoever's working with them to put them back in the right space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, like the less you have to think about it to organize it, the better for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
even
done
just drawing a
math.
grid on it so that they know where to put
Yeah,
it.
you could take the size of what Ken was holding, and if they had the hole in them. The other thing that Brian, the gentleman that I work with who has the 3D printers, he actually made a stand for him with like our names on it, which is kind of cool, so that you can coordinate them together for words. And I can send you that picture, Ken, of what he made.
And like a
because-
card holder, but with a thicker trough.
Yeah, it actually has he actually did it so that they kind of like stand, you can like stack them and move them, kind of like a Connect 4, but with posts.
Huh.
Yeah.
Kathy,
thinking
did you
that the
have
trough
something
would be
you wanted
nice.
to throw out?
We've also done like mats where you can just kind of roll it up and tie it off and carry it and go too, just put the various quadrants. You teach the student that, for visual schedules, you're going to go up here, for class and academics, you're going to go over here, and just teach them the different quadrants for the different types of vocabulary that you want them to access. But you just use the similar material and just roll it up when you're done and carry it off to your next class.
Kathy, is this like with puzzles where you have the puzzle pieces laid out and you roll it up somehow, or?
Sort of. I mean, you would Velcro the objects to the material. It would be the Velcro, the soft Velcro backing on the bottom, and then you do the hard Velcro and stick to it, and then you could just roll it on up and tie it and take it to your next class too, for something that's also portable, like the board. If you wanted something.
The one thing
that you
about that is, and once again, you have to think about the time of unrolling it and rolling it versus open shut. And so you're always looking at, how can I make this as immediate as possible? Because, if I'm dealing with a child who has a lot of movement in their runners, I may only have 2 seconds, and I'm not going to have time to roll that board up. And the moment I chase that student, somebody else is going to take that board and it's going to be whoosh. So I'm always looking at, you can see I've worked in some really interesting classrooms, but I'm always trying to figure out quick and together.
That's a good point.
As the husband of a paraprofessional, I will say that I thank you for that attention for them. She's always like, this is not.
My paraprofessionals, they are like gold. If you get a good one, they are worth all the time I can invest in them, because if they stick with us, I'm buying a breakfast, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, because they are worth their weight in gold if they are good.
SDC 8 is actually one of my retirement fantasies.
Well, this has been great. I will say it is 5 till, So if there's anything else that people want to kind of throw out, we just have a couple minutes left. We've got a lot of great resources in the chat today. So thank you everybody for adding to that. Anything else? I did say at the beginning, sorry, Ken, that
Yeah, go ahead.
this is going to be our last roundtable. We're taking a break for the summer. We will start back up in September. So I hope you all will join us in September. If somebody else wants to pick it up for the summer, feel free. Because it's a great place to just, have a kind of a smaller group and knock things around. But I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. And Ken, what have you got?
Yeah, I want to save, this is Zoom craziness. I want to save the chat. So I click on save the chat and it says, oh, saved. Where the heck did it save it? Oh, show and folder. Okay. Sorry, I was a little desperate there to make sure I didn't lose the chat.
Yeah,
Good.
it is that thing of like, where do these go? Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I got it.
All right. Okay. Anybody else have anything before we adjourn?
Thank you.
I was just kind of looking for that Chicago internet site, but I couldn't find it, so. But
Yeah, I think there are a few local places that folks can go to get things printed and
yeah,
yeah. And Makers Making Change.
All right. That's the one I
maybe
was gonna
that's it.
say.
Makers Making Change. Maybe
Right.
that's it.
All right. Well,
Sorry, may I throw
Well-
out one? Sorry, I thought of one
Yeah.
thing. Just a reminder for anyone who is interested, the call for papers or call for submissions for the ATIA 2023 conference is open. If anyone is working on any AT things that you would like to see presented there, and as Scout can attest, there's a heavy maker component to that. So atia.org if you're interested.
yeah, who doesn't want to go to Florida in January?
There are
I
worse places
missed
to
the
be.
deadline for AAC in the cloud, so maybe will do that. That's interesting. Yeah. Thanks for that.
All right.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good summer.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.